Ladies and gentlemen, we've got a reunion from the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, the original cast. And everybody's going to be here except for Mr. Avery, who is dead, and Miss Herbert, whose face is X'd out because they're going to replace her with this lady right here, Daphne Maxwell Reid. And the only beef I got about that is when you think of that show, it's very hard to think of Daphne Maxwell Reid. Now, let me give you the backdrop. The reunion is supposed to happen around Thanksgiving this year to celebrate 30 years of the 30-year anniversary of the show. Now, for those of you that don't know, the original Aunt Vibe had a fallout. She started wigging out, and she kind of, some people want to say she went crazy, and some people say she has valid arguments because she fell out with Will Smith. Take a little bit of a look at what some of the craziness she had to say. Then we'll finish discussing the reunion and should they have invited her or left her out.
I want to say something about Jada Pinkett Smith asking other actors, black actors and actresses, to boycott the Oscars. First of all, Miss Thing, does your man not have a mouth of his own with which to speak? And the second thing is, girlfriend, there's a lot of shit going on in the world that you all don't seem to recognize. People are dying. Our boys are being shot left and right. People are hungry. People are starving. People are trying to pay bills. And you talking about some motherfucking actors in Oscars. And it just ain't that deep. And here's the other thing. For you to ask other actors and other blackstresses and black actors to jeopardize their career, and they're standing in a town that you know damn well, you don't do that. And here's the other thing, they don't care. They don't care. And I find it ironic that somebody who has made their living and made millions and millions of dollars from the very people that you're talking about boycotting, just because you didn't get a nomination, just because you didn't win. That is not the way life works, baby. Okay? And it's very suspect to me. And I seem to recall, 20, maybe 6, 7 years ago, 25, whatever it was. Look, I don't even remember, but I seem to remember at option time coming to you and saying, you know what, Will, you're the star of the show. Why don't we all get together? And with you, maybe we could get a little raise. Maybe the network, since, you know, the show is such a hit and you being the star of the show, your influence would help us greatly, like they did on Friends, like white shows do. Remember that? Do you remember that? Because I do. And your response to me was, my deal is my deal and y'all's deal is y'all's deal. Well, karma must be a bitch, because now here you are. Here you are. You've had a few flops. And you know, there are those out there who really deserved a nod. And Idris Elba was one of them. Lord have mercy. Beast of No Nation was incredible. That man is an incredible actor. You are not. Maybe you didn't deserve a nomination.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, she to this day still holds Will Smith responsible for her getting kicked off. And you can go back and read the history. It could go either way, because Will Smith did have a lot of sway with the network, because he did take that show to being the #1 show on the network for a long time. And when they just got rid of her, some of us never got fully invested in the new Antville. Trisha C was just in the comments talking about that dance scene. That was probably one of the most iconic scenes in the show. She put the damn dance on them white chicks, then she snapped that finger on them. And from that point, since they separated, Aunt Vibe, Mrs. Herbert, has put out all these videos that have just been very inflammatory, sour grapes, and you're talking 25 years later. And y'all know when a black person is upset and they gets to going in they arguments, boy, they hot. You digging into their soul. And so she's never let that go. Will Smith is in a greater power position, so it's easy for him to blow it off. But in the reunion, she's not invited. Everybody else is coming. My first TV crush, Tatyana Ali, is going to be there. Larry, should they had invited the original Aunt Vibe, let bygones be bygones, or is it too far gone? And are you going to watch the reunion special that is going to be on HBO Max?
I don't know. I mean, I'll probably watch it. I don't know. If I see it, I'll see it. It's not like it's going to be on my list of must-watch things. But they should have invited her. I mean, the reality of it is when they made that switch, when they took the old Aunt Viv out and put the new one in there, they made a joke. It was like, oh, you look different or something. It was sort of like they were poking fun at themselves for making such an abrupt switch, because they went from an Aunt Viv that was very thin and dark skinned to another Aunt Viv that was she wasn't as thin. She was a little bit thicker, not fat. She was a little bit thicker, and she was very fair skinned. And so I kind of feel like when they made such an abrupt change and then they made a joke poking at themselves over it, I feel like you should bring back the old Aunt Viv and do the same thing. Poke another joke. Just like maybe you start off with the original or with the replaced Aunt Viv, and then like halfway through the episode, you switch them out. And people who watch the show that are fans of the show will know what's going on and find it hilarious.
Yeah, and the thing is, Larry, the new Aunt Viv never on that show. I didn't watch much of her other shows, but the new Aunt Viv, Daphne Maxwell Reid, she didn't fit the role as well as the original Aunt Viv. Most of us, when we think of Fresh Prince, we don't think of her. We think of the show being good with the original Aunt Vi, who was a multi-talented actress, dancer, singer, and we associate her in that role. And I think that she did a better job in that role than Daphne Maxwell Reid did. So I'm with you. If you're going to have a reunion show, you know what would be hilarious is if they did something where they're on the show. Maybe Aunt Viv is going out to the car or going out to shop or something, and then when she comes back, it's the old Aunt Viv, and she's like, "Hey, I'm back," and everyone starts clapping and whatever else, and it's just sort of a goof, because it's like she's gone, and then she walks to the door and says, "Hey, I'm back," and everybody's like, "Aunt Viv is back," you know? Yeah. And I mean, they could even have fun with Will Smith, because people know there's some tension there. There could even be some fun joke with it where he's like, "But she just left. Who cares?" While everybody else is excited that she's back. So I mean, you could go 5 different directions to make that a very good setup, Larry. You could poke fun at it. You can enjoy the moments. I think Will Smith should be swallowing his pride right now and at least trying to communicate with her to just say, "Hey, let's put the tensions away. You come on up here. Maybe we clear the air a little bit without getting into too many details, and we just enjoy something that was an iconic history-making show that introduced more Black culture to the world." That was a groundbreaking show. And I just think that in the times we're living in right now, make bygones be bygones, bring her back, kumbaya. And Uncle Phil is groundbreaking in a lot of ways. It was very groundbreaking. Because one of the things that it did was there was a lot of people that grew up with there's a lot of Black people that grew up without a lot of money. And they always looked at, they always thought, "Oh, if I just make money and I get rich, everything will be fine." Right. And I think what it showed a lot of people who didn't know, I'm not going to claim to be one of those people. I was quite fortunate that my parents were both highly educated and made a significant amount of money. So I grew up in a nice place, but I didn't. I didn't. Well, I knew that with a lot of the things they were experiencing, and I thought that it was very cool. They were showing like, yes, you can grow up and you can become a lawyer or a business person or whatever and go and live in Beverly Hills and go to a private school, but you still have to deal with all this racism. And I thought it was interesting how by Will coming in there and having his cousin there, that he was actually pointing out some things to his cousin that he didn't realize. I mean, there's things that I forgot his character's name, Alfonso Rivera's character's name now. Carlton. How can you not remember that iconic dance? And then I thought of it. What the hell? Man, you want no Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. I would expect you, with your background, to for sure be into the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air.
So, you know, I was thinking, I was like, there were times I remember watching that show where Will was pointing things out that were racist to, you know, to Carlton, and Carlton just didn't see it that way at first. And then later he realized that Will was right. And I thought that was great because there's a lot of people that grew up thinking, oh, if I just make a lot of money, I don't have to deal with this stuff anymore. And that's just simply not America. I mean, as long as you're black, as long as you're a person of color in America, you know, you're dealing with that stuff until we can get rid of this racist infrastructure that we have. But I mean, that's a whole other subject. But I just thought that the show was really important in that way.
Yeah, but not just that. We can sit here and go on and on and on about some of the groundbreaking moments, but for me, they definitely need to try to reconcile as best as possible with the original Aunt Viv, and hopefully we can have a really, really good reunion show with James Avery looking down old Uncle Phil to really smile and say, hey, we done something good. And while we're talking about it, ladies and gentlemen, Jada Pinkett Smith in production with Will Smith's production house is going to be rebooting The Fresh Prince. Now, I know that tensions with Jada and the original Aunt Vi are worse than what they are with Will. So having said that, she might not be there, but that's who's doing the reboot. I don't see how you reboot the show, but hell, I've been wrong before.
Right.
So
yeah, someone said Chris P says versus with old Aunt Viv versus new Aunt Viv.
I like that. We could get a versus battle right there on stage in the reunion. Old Aunt Viv versus new Aunt Viv. Now, I wonder, are they going to have baby Nikki come up there? I didn't see anything about baby Nikki. Everybody else I saw, but I didn't see anything about baby Nikki. So maybe he'll come. One of my favorite episodes, ladies and gentlemen, that they ingratiated me to was when they introduced Boys to Men singing Let It Snow when Will was trying to have something extra for Nikki's christening. That was when I first got introduced to Boys to Men. They've been my favorite R&B group forever since then. So thank you, Will Smith. You turned me on to a little bit of culture.
Yeah, brothers from Philly.
Hey, man.
You know?
That's what it is.
Someone,
go ahead.
Someone said Hillary with Jazz. Now, that would be a good storyline to have those two either have come back and they're hooked up and married, or to come back and all of a sudden now Jazz is something that Hillary's interested in and they end up hooking up. That would actually be kind of cool.
Yeah. And somebody in the comments section said, red table time. Man, that red table liable to get red with some fluid if you get her sitting across from Jada Pinkett Smith, man. Because I mean, that video I just showed you guys is about 4 or 5 years old, and it hasn't been much tension, much ground made since then. So we'll just have to see. But
no, but you know, it's funny when that video that they showed, I feel her on that where they talk about, you know, she's up there talking about, you don't ask people to boycott something because you didn't get nominated. That's bogus. I think what happens is that there's a time that you may start to ask people to boycott when you go through a whole Oscar season and there's no black people nominated. If that happens one season, then you're like, okay, this is bogus. We've had some really great films made where black people were the leads, or they were the supporting. They should have at the very least have been nominated. When you go through a season or 2 or 3 like that, the first season, no. Second season, you might start saying, okay, you know what? This is bogus. Let's look at the competition that's out there. Are those movies so good that maybe these ones that we were in just couldn't get lifted up? But by the third season in a row where you start to see, oh, this is crazy. We're making great movies and people should have been nominated and it's just not happening. That's when you start talking about boycotting.
Having said that, ladies and gentlemen, Will Smith, fix it. Let's get both Aunt Vi's up there and make this thing happen.